Everybody with Angela Williamson is made possible by Fireheart Pictures and viewers like you. Thank you. We've all heard that America is aging. In fact, the 2020 census showed that while the general population is growing at a slower rate, our senior population is growing even faster than average. But what does that mean for those of us approaching retirement age and beyond? Well, tonight, you'll meet two gentlemen who decided to create a podcast to help seniors navigate life. They call it Celebrating Act 2. I'm so happy you're joining us.
From Los Angeles, this is KLCS PBS. Welcome to Everybody with Angela Williamson, an innovation, arts, education, and public affairs program. Everybody with Angela Williamson is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you. And now your host, Dr. Angela Williamson.
Hi, Art and John. I'm so glad you're here, and I am such a fan of your podcast. You have great guests.
We do.
You do?
And you're one of them.
But that's not why I'm just saying that. But, before we talk about Celebrating Act 2, I want our audience to know how the two of you come together and start this podcast. So who wants to take the story first?
The story behind the story.
Yeah.
Yes. Why don't you start the story? And
No,
I'll back
you
up.
start the story.
Oh, okay.
Wait, let me. I'm sorry, that's the old frickin' crack routine.
That's okay.
So in any event, John has been in the business forever, 50 some odd years, and I'm a newcomer to it about 20 years ago.
The kid.
The kid in entertainment. I was high tech for about 30 years before that. And when I got involved in the local organizations, and John and I served on a lot of boards together. So we just did a lot of things together, but basically we got together from time to time talking about all the things that are happening to people over 50, which we were on that journey. And take it from there, John.
Well, we were both busy in the entertainment, really the video industry, television video. And when we'd get together, we not only share personal stories like, what are you going to do about Social Security? What stock are you buying? Medicare, all the things that you worry about as you get older. But we'd also talk about professional things and cameras. And we did a couple of jobs together. Clients sold some things and did some videos for people. And we realized as we met for coffee once a week that the people, the television industry mostly, really didn't serve the over 50 audience very much. We found that they weren't talking about the stuff we needed to hear about, which is life in general, how to navigate life as you get older. Obviously, there's lots of things like Medicare, Social Security, there's health issues, but more than that, there's personal issues. People get divorced, and you're 60 years old, and you're divorced, and how do you go dating? How do you do that? Do you just go online? Are you willing to chance it? So there's a lot of issues about all of life that happen at every age, quote 50. 50 is arguably the second half of your life.
Right.
But 50s, 60s, certainly in your 70s and 80s.
And anyway, so I'm in high tech for most of my life, and I'm used to a user manual. You pick it up and it tells you what's going on and how to fix things and do things. So we decided that we would, because we're already on the journey, we know where some of the potholes are, we'd start a video entertainment version of a user manual for the second half of your life. And Celebrating Act 2, here we are.
And we did it the way we know best. We made videos.
Right.
And you were talking, I had so many questions, but both of you can answer this too. Because we all are in this industry and we understand how this industry is, and we celebrate young people, and we celebrate young people who all of a sudden overnight they become a billionaire, and we celebrate that because they're young. But we forget that there could be people that reach over 50 and then they become a billionaire, but we don't really celebrate that. So in the sense of you having coffee, talking about this, are you realizing there's so many wonderful things that happen after a certain age that people aren't talking about? Is it maybe
Well,
a taboo?
I'll give you one example.
Yeah.
We do a lot of interviews with people who are reinventing themselves or starting a new career. One of them is somebody who we say reinvented radio. Why? He was out of work, and he was a sort of, I guess, in his late 50s, and had been in radio earlier in his career, and he started an internet radio program, and it's very successful in Orange County, called OC Talk Radio. We did an interview with him. We also did an interview with J.A. Jance, who is a New York Times bestselling mystery author, who didn't write her first book till she was 38, and she just turned 77 last week and has about 60 novels that she's written, most of them on the New York Times bestseller list. So,
and coming out with another one at 77.
right.
And we don't see her. We should see her all over
We should.
because not only is she writing these best-selling books, New York Times best-selling books, but she's also doing this in what we call, starting to think about what
The
midlife-
golden years. Yeah,
Yes.
there's a lot of names for it, isn't there?
I know, but
Yeah, we kind of eschew some of those names. I don't want to be a senior.
how do we change that?
I don't know. You got to come up with a better name, I guess.
You know what you have to do is you have to come and visit Celebrating Act 2 and subscribe and watch all these wonderful people
Knows how to
reinventing
do it.
themselves.
Talk about transition. Get the
Yeah.
name in there. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and that's what we're going to talk about in detail in the second half. But let's talk about how you got there, because then you come together and you decide, okay, we need to show what seniors are doing. We need to help seniors,
Right.
people like us, and show that we're a whole new generation. I
Yep.
say we're a whole new generation. And because you have video background, you have the tech background. I mean, tell me about how you come together to do that very first show. So tell me about that first show.
We grabbed a couple of cameras and we sat down and we filmed each other
Right.
talking. Kind of a blog of whatever you want to call it. And we put it out there. It was two old white guys talking, having fun. I don't know. And from that, we realized we need to find people who know what they're talking about. So we could talk about our experiences, but we also wanted to find people who were experts in it. And so we went through and started interviewing, calling people up. And we actually went to people's houses. We were going on location. We were going places. But what had happened is COVID hit.
So how do you reinvent
So
yourself?
we were very fortunate, unless you want me to hold.
No.
We were very fortunate in that John and I used to be neighbors about 5 or 6 miles apart. And John moved to a location about 50 miles distant from me. And just getting all our camera gear together and going out and seeing people became not quite as convenient. Plus, we started finding people in San Francisco and some people on the East Coast. So I started, because I had the tech background, dabbling with online materials and ways to work with stuff. And I came up with a series of things, including mostly Skype, but we use Zoom sometimes as well, to have the two of us in remote locations interviewing somebody in still another remote location. And this was about 3 or 4 months before COVID hit. Because we physically were not next to each other, we wanted to interview distant people. And that's pretty much when you go to our website or the YouTube channel, you'll see all of their interviews being done over Skype. It looks like Skype, but really it's a combination of technologies. And we had a chance for 3 or 4 months before COVID hit to sort of get it working fairly well. And then all of a sudden, everybody was using that on major TV. And what we were doing is we were building templates around it. We looked really well. So that's basically how our current format came. But we're still looking at doing a talk show. We have the website for general information. And so that's sort of where we are now. And we're ready to reinvent again if we have to.
Yeah, and I love that you say reinvent, because you not only did that, but you also had to learn to pivot.
Yep.
It sounded like you were already pivoting before it happened.
Yeah.
And so because you were already changing the format of your show, and then COVID hits, how does that change how you get guests? Do you start to, because we all know COVID hit the older population really hard.
Yes.
And so I'm sure, and I'm just saying this because my parents, they were looking for information out there. So did you start to pivot your show because we're still celebrating Act 2, but you also provide a lot of information as well.
Yeah, well, of course, second half of your life is your Act 2, and it brings different challenges. We interviewed one guy who's just turned 50, 52, I think, and he admitted he's the sandwich generation. He's got kids who are in high school, and he's still got to worry about college and who knows whatever else for another 10 years. And he's got parents who are in their late 60s. He's got to worry about them. Are they healthy? What do I do if they break a hip or they have to go into a nursing home? So there's lots of information and lots of content that we had to develop because of COVID, and we also pivoted in terms of people. We realized, gee, we don't have to travel to this city and that city to do all these interviews. Now, once we started using the Skype system, we can interview people in Northern California and New York and Florida and Minnesota, anywhere we want.
And also to give you another quick example of, we have people bringing suggestions to us now, which we didn't have at the very beginning.
Right.
So a latest person that we did a single interview with, but she was absolutely fascinating. You'll understand why in a moment. And we're now doing a regular series. We've just started a regular series with us, and she came to fame with us because she started doing a blog called The Hungover Widow, and it was about a woman who was 50, who was married to a high school sweetheart, who had recently died of cancer, and for the first 5 years she didn't know what to do. And after she started dating again, she was never really in the dating pool. So, but she's a writer, and she had been an attorney, but she went out and she got a master's in writing. And she actually has a book coming out next year, but she tells these fascinating stories about the horrors of dating.
Mature dating.
Mature dating.
I love that term, mature dating.
Yeah.
So so we're now getting recommendations of people, but we constantly are looking for new people.
Right.
And J.A. Jance, actually, John was reading her books with his wife, and made an email to her, just happenstance. And
would you like to be on our show?
so
She said
that's
absolutely.
happening more now.
I love that. That's
So
such a
now,
great story. Now
without
you're doing
Skype,
people
we
you
wouldn't
love.
have been able to interview her.
Right.
Wonderful.
So what we do is we try to reach out to people who have personal stories that are inspiring, because we all need inspiration. As you go through life, particularly after 50, you don't know really, I mean, there's lots of information out there, but you don't really have a sense of how I'm going to survive. You know, death is always somewhere down the line.
It's always down the line.
Yeah.
However, I want to take a break because we're not going to continue to talk about death on this show because we're talking about celebrating Act 2.
Yes.
Right.
And you mentioned one person that you have as a regular guest. So I want to do a deep dive into Celebrating Act 2 when we come back from the break.
Sure.
You have so many specialists. I want to hear about how you found these specialists, why they're important, everything that there is about this show, because people will want to know, and they're going to want to know how to watch it, because you actually, even though it's a podcast, it's video, so I love it. So hold on, stay right where you're at, and we'll come back. And you stay right there and come back to hear more of my conversation with my friends Art and John.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? But now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back. I am continuing my conversation with Art and John, and we're talking about their wonderful series, Celebrating Act 2. Before we went to break, I stopped you. That was such a wonderful segue. Thank you. You saved me. But I stopped you because I want to spend this entire segment talking about your show in detail, because you have really created a wonderful show. You have over, what, 500 shows?
Over 500 videos, yep.
Over 500 videos. So now what you've done as a show is you've sophisticated yourself. You have experts who come on all the time. So how do we get there, John?
Well, Art mentioned Debbie Weiss, who is one of our regular contributors. We call them experts.
The hungover widow.
The hungover widow. And so we asked her to be a regular because we recognize that people over 50, even into the 70s and 80s, by the way, are interested in finding love and finding relationships and finding companionship and finding a relationship with a romance attached to it.
Yeah, but why don't you talk about our first regular?
Oh, our first regular. I'll talk about our
so she
first
wasn't
regular.
the first one.
Oh, no.
No,
Okay,
she's
because
the
I really
most
liked
recent.
her, but we'll go back to her in a minute.
Yeah, our first was, I think, John Mariani, wasn't it? So we were looking around and saying, what we need other people to bring their expertise to our audience. And one of the things we realized is that we were talking about travel and whether we're going to travel and can't travel in the age of COVID, a whole lot of other stuff. I said, well, I went to high school with a guy who is a world traveler. He's a gourmet restaurant critic, and he's been writing for Esquire magazine for 20 years, every year doing their annual best new restaurants of America. I called him up. He said, "Chief, where have you been? What are you doing? I'd love to do this." So he is our regular, John Mariani. He is the, what's his gourmet?
Virtual gourmet.
The virtual gourmet. He's got a virtualgourmet.com. He's got a very nice newsletter, free newsletter for people. He's a wonderful writer, and he is, I can't believe how much this guy knows about.
And it's a great storyteller.
He is. He's a good story. He knows about food, and he knows about travel. He's been to, I think, every city in the world, if I'm not mistaken, and also travels the United States. Great guest. Then after that, do you remember who?
Well, we have another bunch of really great regulars, but one that I think you know as well, Manny Pacheco.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I think our show knows him.
Yeah.
And I met him probably, I may have actually met him before you, about 10 or 12 years ago, but because of all the organizations we ran, we basically know everybody that
Professional television,
professional.
media organizations.
And we had him come down to a couple of meetings, and he's a fascinating guy, as you know.
Yeah,
and,
fascinating
and
series.
What's better for the 50-plus set than something that some of us actually remember hearing about in our youth? So he's forgotten Hollywood.
Classic Hollywood movies
and I think we've
stars.
got about 60 or 50 episodes with him alone.
And we love doing this because all our guests are fun to talk to.
Right.
Just like being here with you. It's a great conversation. And besides Manny, we have Dr. Liz Lister, who's a medical MD.
Right. She was an obstetrician that I knew for about 30 years, but she was reinventing herself. She moved to San Francisco and took up becoming a hormone replacement therapist.
Yep.
So again, what's more perfect? So we've talked about menopause, and every pause in between. And she's very personable. As it turns out that we either know or people introduce us to these really kind of interesting people that we enjoy talking with. And I will let you talk about our favorite philosopher, Mr. Jordan.
Mr. Bill Jordan. I don't know how we found Bill, but he's in North Carolina. And we get on the Skype, on the internet with him, I don't know, once a month sometimes, and we talk about life in general. I call him our baby boom philosopher. He's got a big mug, and it says, "Embrace the boom." That's his movement.
Right.
He's creating a movement for baby boomers.
And he's a former radio jockey, disc jockey, and for 30, 40, 50 years. And then he started reinventing himself, just doing voiceover commercials and things like that. And then he started this whole philosophy kind of thing. And he's a fun guy to talk to.
He's got 15 practices, best practices to help you live your life.
Gratitude and, those kind of things.
But he's also a funny guy.
Yeah.
He's a lot of fun to talk to. And I think it was Dr. Liz introduced us to Michelle Fabrica,
right.
who is our love and relationship coach.
There's a lot about relationships on your show. What are you trying to say?
Well, we have a relationship.
We
You
do.
do. It's
Yes.
a bromance. That's what we
Yes,
like to
it's a
call it.
bromance.
Bromance.
I'm
is,
sorry
thank
to say it is. Yeah, so we have 10 experts, and I at the top of my head, I can't remember all 10, but we're always looking for more people. We're talking now to a gentleman who might be, we hope, a financial expert for us. But in between, besides our 10 experts, we interview people from every walk of life, because our philosophy is the second half of your life is all of it's important, not just health. I mean, yeah, we're going to come into health issues as you get older. And Art's been willing to talk about some of his.
Right,
I won't talk about mine.
right. Well, because you're perfect in every way. What's the matter with you today?
That's
No,
right.
That was another thing. But we interviewed a Darren Baker who he's an attorney, but he specializes only in living trusts. And he did it about 10 years ago. He started computerizing it. And for like $500 or $600, he sends you a form to fill out, and then you eventually show up at his office. But for that amount, including all the notarizations, he's in Southern California, but he can be reached online, or certainly give great ideas. He talks about the importance of pour over wills, which I had never heard of. So I used him for that.
Yeah.
Tell us what that means.
So it's, first of all, you don't want anything to go to probate, because that means that the courts and attorneys get money. So if you just say, here's the piece of paper says living trust, here's who gets basically what, or who's in charge. But sometimes when you put it together, you don't put everything in the name of the trust. Like I have a car in my name. So if something should happen to me, there's a pour over will that says whoever is my trustee can just take that and my information that I have not put in the trust by changing its name, and automatically it becomes part of the estate.
Sure. So you have a will,
Right,
Yes.
and you have a trust.
Yes.
And your will says everything goes into the trust.
right.
Because the trust is what saves your heirs from going through the court system.
But the really important thing is that he covers all the bases, which are important to
Right.
our audience. It should be, and that a lot of people don't do it, and then it becomes too late. And then what do you do when there's a mess of somebody dies, let's say in a plane crash? I mean, nothing planned, it may be young. So you have that. So he go through all that information. And even if you don't go to him, you basically understand there is a world out there. It's not that expensive to do, but if you don't do it, there are consequences.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of people that we look for. We interviewed somebody in hospice about hospice care,
Yep.
about should you sell your home as you get older because you want to be on the first floor? You know, the kind of things that you maybe get to think about when climbing stairs are more difficult.
Sure.
But it's all those resources are there. If they're of interest to us, and we figure it'll be interest to a lot of people who are 50, want to become 50, they strive to become 50 someday.
Better
and
pay
beyond.
attention. That's right. They better pay attention. Just because you're not 50 yet doesn't mean you're not going to get older.
Yes.
So you need to take care. We'll talk to you later about taking care of all these things for some time when you approach our
Yeah.
world.
Yes, because of course I'm still 22.
That's right. Angela, what we tried to do was we tried to take all of life
Yes.
and organize it onto a website so that people could find the videos that they need. And so what we did is we took 5 topics. Now, you can't organize life into 5
I know.
aspects, but we did.
Like
And so-
entertainment and health and
Sure.
uh,
Entertainment, health.
and others. Go to our website, CelebratingAct2.com.
Relationships, because I'm seeing this running
Relationships.
theme here.
Right.
Right. Well, there's entertainment, there's lifestyle,
Yeah.
Lifestyle.
Finance,
That's a
travel.
lot of stuff
and then we
gets
have this whole
piled
section
into
called
once.
contributors. And now we
Right.
have 10 regular contributors. And if you go to the YouTube channel, and please subscribe if you do that, you
We'll make
can
sure to put a graphic.
Yeah.
binge watch. You can binge watch Manny
Sure.
and the Virtual Gourmet, because we have them all in playlists.
Or binge watch Dr. Liz. And so you can see all the things that we've talked to them about.
Or you can binge watch the adorable Art and John vlog.
Our every
Every week.
Thursday blog. Yeah.
Right.
blog, whatever it is.
Video?
Yes.
Oh yeah, vlog. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so impressed.
2
with
guys
you.
talking about nonsense mostly, but our opinions. We've been through life. We know the answers to everything, don't we?
we have
Art?
this, we have the scars to share, and maybe if you can avoid 1 or 2 because you got to watch us.
And that's the
Yeah,
whole
really good.
purpose. That's the whole purpose is, if you knew what was coming next, if it was good or bad, you'd know how to take advantage of it or avoid it. And when you hit sometimes when you hit 60, you know it's Social Security's coming, but you don't know, why things work the way they do. And it's really good to have some people who've been there kind of help you out.
Like a trusted older relative who may not be the smartest human being in the world, but at least they've been there first and care enough to tell you about their experiences so that you might benefit from them. So, and we have fun doing it.
I'm speechless. But I love what you're doing. I almost want to call it CelebratingAct2.edu because you're like your own university.
Sure. I love that.
Yeah.
Write that down.
I want credit.
As a matter of fact, a professor.
Oh, yes,
that's
I do that in my spare time,
That's
don't
right.
I?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you two are doing such a wonderful thing. And thank you so much for helping us as we age to celebrate our next act. And we're going to make sure all your websites are on there. You gave us such great videos. And this has been such a wonderful time. And I cannot wait for everybody to see what you two do next.
And don't wait to get older. Everybody should look forward to it.
Yes. You know what? That's a great way to end the show. Everyone, look forward to getting older and do it while you are celebrating Act 2 with my friends here. Thank you for joining us on Everybody with Angela Williamson. Viewers like you make this show possible. Join us on social media to continue this conversation. Good night and stay well.